Welcome to the One More Podcast. I'm your host, Quentin Harris, and I am joined by an incredible guest and friend of mine today. I am honored to have Coach Matthew Driscoll, head coach of the men's basketball team at the University of North Florida. Coach, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's exciting to be here and looking forward to sharing some things now that it's year 14 or 14th season. It's amazing how quickly it goes.
Oh, it is, and I tell you guys what. For our listeners out there, hang on. This is going to be a great one. Hang on to your seats, and you're definitely going to be in a place where you can listen to this one as we get into it. You know, as I sit here with you today, Coach, I'm kind of in awe because you're one of 363 D1 coaches, and I don't think there's a lot of people, including myself, that really didn't know that 363 positions, and you're one of them out there. Talk to me for a minute about number one, how that feels, and then number two, like we're not talking like one of 10,000. One of 363. It's quite a journey to get to that spot.
There's probably 363 lawyers on this side of the ditch. So if you want to put it in perspective where we live, it's a little bit more perspective there. But I tell you, it's something that's been inside me.
Mhm.
It's something that grew. It was a lot of adversity and obstacles and differences within the business in and of itself. But like everything in life, you want opportunity. And when preparation meets that, usually good things transpire for you. And to be somewhere for 14 years is very, very rare in this profession as well. We've had success, which obviously helps, and we'll talk a lot
Absolutely.
about that down the road there. But to be one of 363 is an honor and something at the University of North Florida that I take very, very seriously in the sense that our position without football and what men's basketball, knowing what it can do on a national scene
Mhm.
and what it can do for the whole everybody, not just athletics, but the whole kit and caboodle. They say athletics is your front porch. Well, we're
100%.
we're way down on the step in the front where the first guy's coming. So I'm excited about UNF and where it's going, and I'm excited about North Florida, but I'm more excited about sharing with you exactly how this whole thing kind of transpired.
Yeah, and I love the story, and I can't wait to get into it. And for all of our UNF listeners out there, hang on, we got a great thing for you at the end here. But before we get there, let's go ahead and let's open up some stuff here because I know getting to this position, just knowing what I know about you, this doesn't come easy, and this comes at a large sacrifice. That I think a lot of people they see you on TV, they see the interviews, they see the highlights, they see the bright shining light of the position, but boy, is there a cost that comes with it and a sacrifice that comes with it as well. Travel, family time, etc. And kind of want to talk a minute about that. About let's start down the road of what was your first big job? What was your first big break you got into this business?
Wow, there's a lot that would kind of go into that. You know, when I was young and I was 20, I was managing McDonald's, and I really thought that I was going to own probably 5 or 6 of them. I had that kind of mentality.
Mhm.
My daddy always taught us that wherever your name's on the whatever you do, your name's on the back of it. So just remember, you're representing us, you're representing our family, and that's how I went about everything. Had this passion for basketball. Was a really good baseball player, but had this passion for basketball. And as I transpired through that McDonald's and selling cars and selling insulation and doing all this stuff, I realized I got to finish my degree and I got to get into this thing. And then I did. And there's not enough time to talk about the whole story, but it really is an incredible story. But I really believe in dots on a map. I
Mhm.
believe in our dot, how it came together, it came to be. And I believe those dots on the map, some people have a little bit more than others, depending on how much you've done. I probably have about 13 or 14 specific ones.
Mm.
But this specific dot was something that, whether it was Rick Barnes at Providence that led to it, because the high school coach that eventually hired me was a Providence guy. He came down into Pennsylvania, a little bit north of
And
Pittsburgh.
this is that coaching tree we hear about all the time.
And it's also that dot on the map.
Right.
And here's the way I look at it. If you embrace where your feet are planted, if you embrace this podcast, if you embrace where Bank of England is, if you embrace where you're at with Aaron, if you embrace where you are with if you embrace where your feet are planted, this is the key with genuine purpose.
Right.
Like that's the deal. So a lot of people like me, and you look back, like I was ranked 8th or 9th one year, they voted me, and my peers voted me as an assistant in the top 25 in the country. But because of by my peers, it's the only reason I say it.
Right. It's the highest compliment you can get.
100%.
Right.
But like a lot of those people that were on there haven't gotten to this particular level. And that's where I think the genuine purpose comes into play. But with that, embracing your feet are playing with a genuine purpose, that's where treating people the way you want to be treated. And it comes back so many fold, it's not even funny. Not the way they treat you. Forget that.
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't treat you the way you want to be treated, you've got to figure out either how to navigate that, or maybe that's just not somebody you're going to go down the road with.
Right. And in knowing that, like, is there one person at this one job that treated you a certain way that you were like, you know what, like this is where I can kind of draw to, or is it just too many?
Well, you go back to it, and like I get the LaRoche job.
Okay.
I'm a young 27-year-old head college basketball coach at a Division III school.
I was going to say, for the audience, it's D3.
It's a Division III school.
Yep.
But I'm a JV high school coach, and I get the job. How does it happen?
Correct.
Dots on a map. My assistant coach at junior college, one of the greatest players ever played. They defunct the program for 7 years. They brought the program back. Guess who turned the job down? Me. Because my AD, who was Jim Kelly's high school coach, a great player for the Buffalo Bills, never won a Super Bowl, by the way. He tells me, I hired you to be a basketball coach, not the yada, 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 yada. I got you this job. So the way I was raised and the way we were brought up, like, man, maybe I'm not being loyal. Maybe I'm missing something. And this was back in the days when, maybe I didn't have enough mentors at the time, or enough people that were maybe leading me down the path.
This is early 90s.
So I go back and get my degree. I'm going to become a teacher and a coach. I get a high school job. My junior college coach helped me with the whole deal, but my assistant coach, he's like, you can get this job. And what the break was of the breaks, and this is what people don't realize, there's so many things that are laid out for you in life, no matter what your faith is.
So what's the one big break?
The Pittsburgh Post-Gazette's on strike.
Okay.
So there's no paper. So nobody even knows the job's even coming back. So they built a $7 million brand new facility, Monsignor Kerr. I take the job. He makes me feel the way he makes me feel. I turn the job down 24 hours later. Biggest mistake in your life. But here's where we as human beings, where we're genuine in our purpose. You know what? I'm going to write her a note. Hey, really appreciate it. I made a huge mistake.
Lost art, by the way, writing notes.
I went into the principal and said, Gloria, like, did you hire me to coach? She's like, I don't care what you do after 3:30. Just make between 8 and 3. Make sure them fifth graders are getting taught. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, and I love teaching. I mean,
you still do it.
And I was really good at it.
Right.
Like, I was the best thief in the world. Like, all those older women that were kind of around that had all these lesson plans forever, I just take them and make it my own. So I go in and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to resign. So I resigned. Took a Division II job at Slippery Rock, where I went to school.
I was going to say, your alma mater.
And I went back and took that job in July. So July, August, September, October, 4 months. Right now, loyalty again comes into play. Well, I write her this letter in August and said, hey, yada, yada. Come home in October. My light is blinking. You know the Seinfeld episode when he goes in and changes the tape because the light's blinking and she's going to get my light's blinking. I hit the message. It rewinds. Hey, this is Lynn. Call me. I got a situation. Okay. Long story short, the guy they hired that recruited a team for a year quit. So now they're going to start the team. And now I'm like, she's like, I want to hire you. I don't know if I should do this. I gave this guy my word.
Right.
He tells me, Driscoll, you got to do it.
Go
like,
do
you
it.
got to tell Carrie, like, sweetheart, like this is going to be what? Drive over to campus. Might be the best part of the story. The guys are playing touch football in the parking lot. And they don't know who I am.
The basketball team's playing in the parking lot.
They don't know who I am. So I rhyme my window
parking
down.
lot football.
I'm like, hey, what's up? Hey, hey, y'all know basketball team? Yeah, I knew who they were.
Right.
And they, oh, yeah, our coach is this, and I'm this, and I'm better this, and I'm this. I'm Toby Anderson. So that's 94. How many years is that? That's 30 years, almost 28 years.
28 years.
I still remember Toby Anderson came up to the car and said, I said, what's your story? He goes, I'm the manager. I said, really? I said, why is that? He said, I wasn't good enough to make the team, but I love basketball. I said, you know what? You're going to be something someday. The next day, I come in, and them dudes are down running on the court, right? And I'm looking at them, right? And they're cheating. They're not touching the line, all that stuff. The next day, they introduced me as the coach, and I'm standing in front of the room, and they all walk in. And it was almost like that moment.
Record stops.
Where they're like,
Yeah.
So to me, that was probably because then that led me. I'd already had that connection with Coach Chiat,
Mm-hmm.
and then that led me to going to Wyoming, and then. But so that dot at Butler Community College, when my daddy finally decided he was going to help me, so I would commute an hour to Slippery Rock. He was going to
Okay.
help pay for it, and so to me, that's probably was the turning point because it got me kind of in.
Yeah.
And it's like you, it's a small world.
Super small.
Like, wait till you start flowing with this. Like, you're going to find out it's a super small world.
It is already.
And because of that, you start putting different dots.
Correct.
And just we're going to go to it to get to it. Coach says you got to become Coach Chiat when we're at Wyoming 13 months. He says you got to get on the assistant coaches committee because this is what I did. Blah, 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 blah. I said, okay, whatever coach said I was going to do. I'm like, he's awesome.
Right.
So I do it. And that's how I meet Coach Drew. Just like this.
On the committee.
In the basement of a bar. I don't drink. The only reason most of the guys in the room, 95% of them, because you used to get your Final Four tickets early if you were on the committee. And you know what they used to do with them?
Sell them.
So the earlier you got them, the better bang for your buck you could get.
Exactly.
So I go in there. I got my backpack. I got notes. I got all these rules and all. And people are looking at me like, "What is this guy doing?" Well, he's across from me.
The new kid on the block.
Well, he's young.
Right.
He knows his daddy's going to retire. He's getting ready to get the job, and he's like, "Hey, I'm going to resign as the first vice president." And he says, and they said, "Does anybody want to be it?" And I was new, and he goes, "Yeah, Coach Driscoll, he should be it." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll do it." Next thing you know, the guy got fired. You have to be a current assistant. So, well, the president got fired.
So then I'll become
the president. So then Tubby Smith, John Chaney, like all these different people start coming into my circle, but not that tight of a circle.
Yeah. But they're a dot on the map at this point.
Correct.
Yeah.
But that basement, we go to Clemson, we get fired.
Right.
Went on a job. Coach, remember, was going to take his dad's job at Valparaiso. Now Coach Drew, the guy that told me to be on the committee. This is 2 years later, and he needs an older guy. I'm 39. Bada bing, bada boom.
Starts to come full circle at this point.
But during that interview, one of my main questions was, so I knew his dad was a legend. And I thought, man, if Coach makes it, maybe he'll go somewhere.
Right.
And I can go with him. I didn't think I could get that job because I knew Bryce was probably going to get out of the NBA. He's still playing in the NBA. Head coach at Grand Canyon right now. So that's when Coach said that, like, I want to be a high major coach. I'm like, man, this is great.
And how important is it to align yourself with a thought like that? You're like, you know what, if I'm gonna hitch myself to this particular person, you have to visualize where they're gonna go, opportunities that arise. Whether you like someone else better, you've got to look at what the opportunities look like down the road and what their dots look like.
So the way I say it and the way I talk about it is what John Maxwell always said.
Okay.
About vision. So I've been doing this thing. Jack Furtick is an older coach for like 35 plus years. I think we have 89 words that mean leadership, and I broke them into 5. And the one on the far right, I don't want to say the last, it just depends on his vision. And Coach reminded me of John Maxwell. Like, he wasn't a guy that, like, you just said it perfectly. He doesn't stare up the steps.
Right.
Like, he steps up the stairs. And he's like, he's not saying, hey, that's where we're going to go. And
he says, we're going there.
No, he's like, and this is how we're going to do it.
Yeah.
And you're like,
get ready.
And we start talking to some of these stories I tell you in a minute. And they're all, what's great about them is they've all come to fruition because of the championship. So we've got to circle back and talk about them. Because I think some people kind of forgot and or really didn't think, come on.
Right.
But
the championship you're referencing is
the national
championship for Baylor.
So you take over 03 of a murder.
So let's talk about that.
Well, before we do that, go back to the other part that you said, like, to go with Coach and to be aligned with somebody, like, it's no different than your wife. It's no, like, you see who this person is, you see their heart, and you understand exactly, and then you see the people around them because you surround yourself with good people, right?
Right.
So Coach Kennan always says it, show me your friends, show me
Same
your future.
Yep.
So when you look at it, you say to yourself, okay, like this dude is for real. And then you start, so I lived under the desk for 4 weeks, just like Seinfeld. When George lived there for the Yankees, yeah,
under the
I lived
desk.
under the desk, and then that's another great story why I did that. But and then the other part happened, which was a story in and of itself. How the whole because the murders took place in June
of 03.
when I got there, when I got to Valparaiso. So they were starting to come up on the news.
Right.
So every night I'm laying on the floor of my office, and they had a TV in a corner. I'm laying, and there was this one sign that said men's basketball office. And it stuck out in my brain to the point where it actually touched it.
Yeah.
You don't think that way. I can tell you how that quickly turned and how that went down. Because it is very important to kind of what you said, getting aligned.
Mm-hmm.
He believed in me and he trusted me.
And you sensed this in the interview process.
100%. And he trusted me to the point where he's a young guy. His dad's a Hall of Famer. His brother's the 16th pick in the NBA draft. I mean, this dude is a star. He's a stud.
I mean, I can sense the trust looking at you right now. I can see it, like the emotion right now.
I said, listen, coach, you've got to go to the Pumps retreat in August. Like, you have to go. I can put you in front of some people. And then after that, it's all up to you. Because I know there's headhunters there, search firms, whatever you want to call them.
Sure.
And he's like, okay, let's do it. There's a couple funny stories about that too. It was the first time I ever slept with him in a hotel room.
Right.
Slept with him in a hotel room. And that's we go to bed for the first night. He's reading the Bible. He shuts the Bible and he says, you like rain, babbling brook, or the ocean? And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, where are we? And I didn't say it. I'm sure I looked perplexed. I might even have gotten under there. I don't even know. And I said, I really love the ocean, coach. I'm a big ocean guy. He goes, okay, awesome. And he hits his sound machine and the ocean starts playing. And I'm like, oh,
You're
okay.
like
That's
instantly relieved and makes much more sense.
that's what he meant. But anyways, so we go. And it's the weekend that the story broke. Because if you remember, the assistant recorded the conversation about how we're going to make this a drug deal gone wrong.
Correct.
We're going to hide.
We're gonna basically paint a picture that didn't exist to make it look better.
And
well, not better, but
and they
make more
also
sense.
and didn't want to find out about paying the players and all.
Correct.
That's a whole nother podcast. So
you and coach travel into this meeting with other opportunities, talent acquisition people are there.
It's big time, Quentin.
And now all of a sudden, the breaking headline at that, instead of who's there, is a player murdered another player at Baylor University.
John Wooden speaking.
Okay, so perspective. We got the great John Wooden speaking.
Thursday night, Ronnie Lott, the guy with no fingers,
yeah,
right?
One of the best safeties ever.
Magic Johnson. I said, like, they're raising money for this. So they raise money Thursday night. Friday's the big clinic. Saturday's part of it. And then it's unbelievable. It's in Santa Monica. So we're there. And I said, coach, you got to meet this one headhunter, this search firm, Bill Carr. I was just with him the other day. We just laughed about it because it's in coach's book.
Okay.
He actually, he told us. So I said, coach, you got to, so we're sitting there. And who's sitting next to us but Tim Floyd? So Tim Floyd, if you don't know, NBA coach forever, college coach at USC, one of the most UTEP, whatever.
Well-known person.
Big time. He drafted coach's brother. So coach knows him.
There you go.
So we're sitting like this. It's like me, you, and we're just sitting there. Wooden's getting ready to speak. He goes, thoughts on the map. He goes, man, you'd be a great choice for Baylor. And I said, coach, I know I'm telling them. Like, Christian guy, he's young. He's not even going to understand. They're going to fire him in 10 years. Like, it's a perfect situation for him, right? He's like, you'd be perfect. He goes, hey, listen, my college roommate, his wife is Kim Mulkey.
Small world.
So he's like, let me make some call. But so he starts working his deal, right? So anyway, he meets with the headhunter. This part of the story has nothing to do with getting a Baylor job. Though the search firm tried to get the job.
Mhm.
And I'm thinking in my mind, good Lord, this is all lining up. So we're driving there. He says, hey, Driscoll, say his name's Quentin. It's
Right.
Bill Carr. Hey, Driscoll, we're going to take Quentin to the airport with us. Okay, whatever, coach. Remember, I'm 39. He's 31.
Okay.
Get in the car. I'm driving. Bill's in the back, my right shoulder. Coach is here. You've been in California.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever
7
that road
lanes,
is called.
HOV right above you.
So we're going. I'm probably in the 5th or 6th lane. I'm a speed limit guy. We're going. And all of a sudden, coach goes, hey, and he smacks me. Hey, Driscoll, that's the one-armed fugitive. That's the one-armed bandit from the fugitive, from the movie The Fugitive. That's him. And in my brain, I'm thinking, okay, if I ignore him, then I'll be okay. And if I just turn the radio up and I reach for the radio, if I turn the radio up, Bill won't hear him.
Right.
Because, like, he's going to blow this great lunch. Worried about this guy. Guy's driving it was red or burgundy, 4-door, whatever. I'm telling you, that's him. And I'm doing all this stuff, and all of a sudden, Bill Carr goes, that is him. That is the fugitive. That's the guy. And they're both pointing. So now the guy starts working his way over, and he says to me, Driscoll, get over to him. I got to ask him. I'm thinking to myself, now I've only been with coach now for 2 months. I'm thinking to myself, oh my Lord. So I get over, rolls the window down. The guy and the guy's like, they're and Bill's like, he's hitting coach on the shoulder. And I'm sitting there going, this is nice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm like, this is unbelievable. Here I am thinking that coach just lost his whole mind as a 31-year-old.
Right.
But that's how coach was. And that's how coach is.
So the guy he's calling fugitive, it's Harrison Ford. Is that what you're saying?
No. It's the guy with the one arm, I don't know who it is.
The original fugitive.
The original one.
Not okay. So not the fugitive.
No,
not the
original.
movie.
No, the old
original. Okay.
Which I don't even know why coach knew, but he's a movie fanatic. When I got the job, he goes, "Have you seen Remember the Titans?" I said, "No." He said,
"Great movie."
He gave me the DVD and said, "You can't come back in the office until you watch it."
That's a good one to give, though.
So I watched it. What a great movie!
Such a great movie.
By the way, he made me watch Kansas and do a whole report on Kansas. And this is his 20th season in Baylor. It's our 20th year of our relationship. And he's never done anything I gave him from that report that I wrote up.
On Kansas.
But we do.
Oh, there you go.
So it goes back to what you said. Yeah, genuine purpose. Okay. Well, Quentin didn't use anything I said. Quentin didn't do what I said. Quentin doesn't like this. Quentin doesn't. Well, you know what? Maybe one day it's going to come back. Like, take that as a lesson.
Yeah. Use it for yourself, right? Make it work for you. So you guys are sitting at Valparaiso 7 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
You go to Baylor.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
just buy a house.
You're inheriting a program. Let's just set the setting for the audience here. 2003, a player murders another player.
Correct.
And we also are discovering during this point that the previous coach had recruiting violations because they discovered players were getting paid.
That's
A
correct.
significant amount of money. And there was a cover up to make the whole thing look like a drug deal gone bad.
Mm-hmm.
All this gets discovered. Insert you and your team into this program, and you're with your head coach at this time,
Mm-hmm.
and you guys are going to a program that has nothing but a mountain to climb. And let's just talk about that. You walk in there 2007 and you're going, okay, wait a minute. We got to recruit. We've had players leave. We had the Big Ten Player of the Year leave. We had a player that became the SEC Player of the Year leave. Like, we have lost people inside this team that not necessarily are the best, but could be detrimental to the outcome of what this team could do. Now we're having to recruit new talent. What does those obstacles look like when you're trying to recruit a player, and you're trying to bring in more people into a team when the national news has made it look nothing but horrendous at this point?
So there's a lot of things that went through my brain there that I really wanted to throw some things at you. But,
Let's do it.
But when you go back to it from the beginning and you talk about going into it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when coach interviewed for the job, we used to do this thing called the USA Today, front page of it. And we'd have all these wonderful things about whatever. One of them at the bottom was Baylor. And I'm really mad at myself. I had coach sign it when I left in 2009. I had it all the way until my last move. And I asked coach if he wanted it, and he said no. And I threw it away.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm really, really hot at myself because it talked about us winning a national championship in the article. It was a fake article. And you talk about some unbelievable, stuff that you're doing.
Yeah. Forecast.
So coach's vision was we're going to recruit the best talent we can possibly recruit and continue to recruit him. And he is a vicious recruiter. And because of that, I got to receive the benefits of you work out the guys,
Mhm.
you run the practices, you're doing all the scouts because these
'Cause
other
he's
guys,
relentless on the trail.
and now the assistants have to go. The new head coach at Kansas State, the head coach at Oral Roberts, like Grant Castle took over for me. He's at North Texas now, head coach. Like them dudes got to go out,
Right.
and he got to go out. So I got on campus administration, academics, how to be with people, how to move people, so I got to do all this stuff.
This is experience a lot of assistant coaches don't get.
No,
They
a lot of them are pigeonholed.
And that's a huge trust factor to trust the fact that you're handling that while I, the coach, am out.
So I could have stayed at Valpo
Mhm.
with his daddy, and I just bought a house. Carrie just started her job, and he said, the one thing is, Drisk, like he couldn't take everybody with us because he can't leave his dad.
Right.
He wasn't going to do that.
Can't just take everybody away.
And he said, listen, Drisk, you've been here
Mhm.
and you've done it. And so because of that, it was definitely a no-brainer.
Sure.
A lot of people in the profession said it's suicide.
To go to Baylor.
100%.
Because they see it as a no-win battle at this point. You're not you got such a mountain to climb, you're not gonna do it.
Well, you're a nice guy. So just be a nice guy, clean it up, get it right, make people feel good about us. And then when we let you go, we'll take care of you and it'll be okay. And then we can start going. What they didn't realize is that the women were going to win the national championship in 05.
I don't think anybody did.
So they win the national championship. We had been kind of talking about some different things. And now, brand new $10 million practice facility, brand new weight room, new offices that overlooked it. All this stuff is starting to happen. This recruiting class who led us to the first tournament. But coach was always big on best talent, best talent, best talent, best talent. We get a McDonald's All-American. We get a McDonald's All-American. Nobody wanted him. I say nobody wanted him. He's now on staff. I mean, it wasn't like he was the McDonald's All-American that was like that guy because he was only 5'11".
Right.
Shoot the living dog out of it.
But still,
had a
McDonald's All-American.
Had a great career. Did some G League stuff, played overseas forever. Now he's a coach back at Baylor. But so coach, get. So to have some different stories to go along with this, when you first get there, you got 6 guys on scholarship. And then you got this other stuff that's transpiring.
Right.
Because those guys all left.
And typically, how many players do you have on scholarship? 13. And then as this stuff's transpiring, the university limits that, or the NCAA comes in and says, you get 7.
Yeah, you get whatever they did. They, when they come in or they say, whatever that is, they want it. So funny story is, so we got these 6 guys, and these other guys are becoming great players, just like you said. But these guys chose not to leave because the NCAA gave them carte blanche. Like, they've never seen anything like this before.
Like, you can go wherever you want.
Wherever you want, and you're automatically eligible.
Day one.
This was
this is before transfer.
This was like the transfer portal of the transfer portals. And because of that, we have a tryout.
Like an open tryout.
Yeah, and actually I Googled it because for the book. And I pulled up the original information that they sent out.
Yeah.
We have a tryout.
Kind of like how the Eagles do when they did that back in the 80s, that open tryout.
But it's only for Baylor.
Right.
So we thought. So we thought it was pretty clear in the, whatever, right?
Right.
So I walked out for the tryout. I'm like, man, there's like 60 or 70 dudes there. And I walk out on the floor and there's some good looking dudes.
Like that fits the mold. That fits the mold.
I'm like, hey, like, where are you from? Like what's your story? And I go to McLennan Community College. I go, this is the first guy. I'm like, say what? He says, I go to McLennan Community College. And now my wheels are just, where are you from? Oh, I'm not in school right now. I'm figure if I try to make the team, then I blow my, hey, hold the balls, everybody in, have a seat. We're gonna get started. Coach, we got an issue. What's the problem? We got like 70. Oh, that's great. Coach, like we got dudes from McLennan and dude got in a car accident driving up from Houston or Dallas. So I got to go out. So then,
So of the 70, how
like
many were from
40
Baylor?
leave. We're down to 30. And of the 30, it don't look good. It don't look good.
You're like, oh, this is what I thought.
But Robbie McKenzie, he got a lot of national news during the championship. I just went back and forth with him a couple months ago. He's a doctor now. And Robbie McKenzie is one of the ones that kind of stuck through it and made it through it and ended up being one of our players. So anyway, so we go through that. You didn't want to play Baylor that year or even the year after, but that year specifically. Why? Because you're going to get fired. So we got a lot of coaches fired.
Because if you beat them?
Because we beat them.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you beat them, you get them fired.
Oh,
but
man.
you go back to expectations in business and something I learned along the way. Coach said, let's put 15 on the back of the door. I shouldn't say coach. We did it as a staff. We did everything as a staff. Let's put 15 on the back of the door, kind of give them something to shoot for.
And that 15 represented?
15 wins.
Okay.
It would make us 500 or something.
Okay.
Well, when we got to the part of the season where we couldn't get to 15, that number wasn't good. You're like, because we got to take that down. You're like, well, you can't take it down. It's, be kind of like saying, you guys are losers. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, so there's some stuff like that. Coach was the all-time greatest at motivating. He could find ways on game day, especially. So silver garbage can with a lid, whatever that costs. Coach Tang, the head coach of Kansas State, would beat it before the game. He beat it so much, he beat it that he broke it in half at some point during the year. We got a home game, and Mark Moorfield was on the staff, was with Coach at Valparaiso the longest. He was a manager and then became a coach. And he's always in the front. And I noticed this particular game, he's moved to the back. And I thought, this isn't good because Coach might get out of it. His OODA loop might get messed up. That's what I'm thinking. So I go up and stand in the front to replace him. So Coach, he gets done. All right, everybody get up. Stand across from someone. So it's just like you and I. So you're Coach Drew.
Yep.
He's got the championship ring on his hand. And he says, we're going to win. Here's what I want you to do. And as soon as he says it, bam, he smacks me right across the face. And I mean, I get it. He ain't Tyson, but I get it. And I kind of like blow up. And he's like, go ahead, hit me, Driscoll, hit me. And I'm like, are you nuts? In my mind, I ain't hitting you. No. And the guys are looking. So I'm like, I don't give it to him. I give it to him, but just give it. This joker hits me again. So I'm like, okay, it's on. Everybody's hitting each other, then jumping up and down, So Coach was, he always tried to find a way to get the guys, going. And that's his coach. He's still the same way.
Yeah, he didn't want to warm up. He wanted to be ready to go.
We got to Nebraska. We walk into the locker room. Guess what's right next door, like right out the door? A wrestling room. And all the coaches are like, oh, Lord. We were.
Yeah.
We went in there. Yeah, we had to take each other down or we had to do something. I don't even know what it was. But it was crazy. But so you go through those times, right? And you get to that point with that talent. So we're playing, I think we're the 5 seed, I believe.
In the Big 12 tournament.
Big 12 tournament, yeah. Never lost to a 12.
Okay.
This never happened. We're on the cusp. This is the sophomore year of the great team. And there's a whole bunch of stories I'm skipping. And we're on the cusp. And Coach says, no. This is the 07. This is the tournament team. This is the NCAA tournament team. So we're on the cusp of being in the tournament.
On the bubble.
All the people that really matter, Jerry Palm specifically then, not Joe Lenardi, like Jerry Palm, he thinks we're in. But one more win would help, if you wouldn't mind. One more win would help.
Just secure it.
Yeah, whatever. We're playing a 12 seed, Colorado. Our trainer, who I just was their keynote speaker for their daughter's graduation, who was born when I was at Baylor, our trainer is on a diet to lose weight.
All right.
He wants to lose 100 pounds. I'm going to help him, which obviously not the best thing in the world for me to do, but I'm going to help him. I'm going to be your guy. 1 meal a day and this protein thing.
Mm-hmm.
I ain't doing a protein thing, but I'll do the 1 meal a day with you. I'm going to support you. I'm thinking in my mind, if you've ever had Saltgrass, it's a really, really good restaurant. Great steak. I'm thinking breakfast, steak. We win, call it steak. I'm going steak.
Okay.
I don't eat. We play the early game. We're up. I don't know what we're up. 4, 3, 2, 1. It doesn't matter. Media timeout, about 4-minute mark. Coach says, go make sure they're right. Okay, got you, coach. I get down on one knee and I'm, hey, we got to go. We're doing this. What are you doing now? I pass out.
Pass out. Yeah.
Hit the floor. The guys panic, obviously. So still to this day, this group just got in the Hall of Fame. They still think I did it on purpose. So we lose. Yeah, we lose. So now we're obviously on huge eggshells.
Yeah, we're on the bubble at this point.
Yeah, steak didn't taste quite as good that night that I savored. And that day in and of itself, when we got picked, and you have to be there to know it. If you've seen it, you've understand it.
Mm-hmm.
But they picked us last on purpose. I shouldn't say picked us. They revealed us last on purpose.
Well, there's the storyline and everything that went with it.
And they could, I think
draw it out for
Brian Gumble, I think, or whatever. Yep. One of the Gumbles was, I think, doing it. But there was a camera guy in the corner. And I noticed him. And it's like, we might not make, there's whatever thousands of people in the arena. Like obviously it's a big deal. I'll never forget, he turned that light on, before they came, like that 3 seconds or 5 seconds. And so Charlie better, you better make sure. So some guys are noticing that kind of, he turned that light on. And right then, man, all that, I don't want to call it sacrifice because we came into it. Like we knew, like, this is the deal. And like all those 16 hours and all that family time, whatever it looked like, and all those.
Here comes the validation, right?
In 3 seconds. And you talk about an emotional just waterfall of just stuff.
And I can feel that setting right now. It's almost like, one of the questions in the back of my mind was, did the community rally around you guys at that moment, overcoming what they had to do national news wise? Did they rally around that NCAA berth and that validation that you were getting during that time?
And took a whole nother level. We took it to a whole nother level. And then after I left, they got to the Elite Eight, the year I left. And the next year, we actually fell short. Probably, you can look back at these little crumbs because that's what success is, right? It's these little crumbs you keep picking up. And I got to remember that. Remember when Jerron Granberry imploded when his father passed away. I got to remember how we handled that. I got to remember that you keep putting these crumbs in your pocket. And that, what we did. And then the following year, we probably made some poor decisions, not purposefully, but we felt like it was the right thing based on where we were going, yada, yada, yada. And so we fell short and ended up in the NIT.
Right.
And you talk about expectations. And like, first of all, like nobody cared about Baylor basketball. Like nobody cared about it, even before the murders. Like they had gone to 3 NCAA tournaments, I think, in 100 some years.
Yeah. We're talking about Baylor.
Yeah. Like,
most people think Baylor football, but we're talking about Baylor.
Well, they put the guy gave coach a hat and said, give me this back when you go to the NCAA tournaments, like from the 1986 or 80, and we did. We saved it and gave it to him. I wish I would have saved that everything. But like nobody cared. And we weren't a football school.
Right.
Coach Morris, good guy, but we weren't a football school. I'm going to tell you how good Coach Drew is. There's a hurricane called Rita. Everybody can look it up. You can look up the statistics because we were playing Washington State. Our arena was a hurricane shelter. So they had to move the game up, and they moved the game up so we could get the game in against Washington State. Guess who the freshman quarterback was? Robert Griffin III. So we're taking these kids to games, and we're like, wow, you're just great. We're not a football school. We're not a football school. We're basketball.
Right.
Women's basketball won. Men's basketball can win. Blah, blah, blah. Coach sent an email, and I used to have it, and it's not my fault this time. My BlackBerry. It was on my BlackBerry. At 10 something at night after that game, he only had like 189 yards passing. You can look it up.
Mm-hmm.
And Coach Drew said, gentlemen, this is going to be awesome for recruiting. We got a Heisman Trophy candidate, and things are going to be a whole lot better for us. He was a freshman, 189 yards, and Coach is calling his Heisman. There was something about Coach. He just had that unbelievable knack,
that vision
to just see dudes for who they are. And then obviously Coach Browse's offense, Coach Browse's offense really got him going. It's my hands.
Yeah.
That's that Pittsburghese coming out in me. But when you go back to the talent, what really turned us, Quentin, was that. Curtis Gerald's greatest player probably to play in the Hall of Fame
mm-hmm.
in that era. Henry Dugat, small, undersized, 1,400, 1,200, 1,500 points, whatever it was. Tweety Carter, McDonald's All-American. So those are your three guards. The last thing we need is a guard.
Right.
And the last thing we need is a guard who thinks he's really, really talented. They ain't going to wait because these guys are all going to graduate.
Right.
And then the locker room's going to get a little whacked out. So I told Coach, I'm like, Coach, like, we can't take Lace Darius Dunn.
Right.
And he's like, Drisk, trust me. And I still think about this every single time we're looking at different people. Just keep getting them. 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 Just keep getting them.
That's almost like the old Bill Belichick. Just take the best player on the board, find a place for
him. And I never asked him that, but maybe that's where he got it from. I'm going to have to ask him.
Yeah. I mean, you just take the best talent. You know, it's kind of like with business. Sometimes you come across someone that's so talented, you're like, I just got to hire this person. We will find a place for them.
So we take him. He is freshman of the year.
Mm-hmm.
He gets a lot of nights. He gets 41 night against Texas Tech, the last game of the year before the Big 12 tournament. And he ends up being the all-time leading scorer in Big 12 history. Buddy Hill just broke it by 5 points a couple years ago. And I'm telling Coach, we don't want him. And that happened with Wajid Aminu.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I go with this. Because I didn't want Wajid. The other four assistants said, we got to get him. We got to get him. And I'm like, he was terrible this summer. Like, he's not the same. He doesn't look the same. His passion's not the same. Like, we're not taking him. And we end up, I listened to them. Well, I listened to them as a CEO or as a leader.
Mm-hmm.
If it's 4-1, if it's 3-2, now you got to be that guy.
Yeah, but you got to listen to your counsel.
This room. Yeah.
Right. Got to listen to your counsel.
But when it's 4-1, you might have missed something.
Absolutely. And that's why you got him. So, you know, one of the things, story that I always love, I've heard you tell numerous times, was during these challenging moments, you know, and we'll move on here in a minute. Baylor, yeah, you guys are recruiting people. You tell the story of like this frosted glass that you had in the locker room and how you guys sold the heck out of this frosted glass as like a perk or as a like, hey, well, we got this. And it always makes me think, you know, in the business world, when you're selling products or you have a product or in a job, or if you're limited to something and you feel like that's holding you back, I always go to this story and I'm like, think about what these jokers had to do. They had to sell a frosted piece of glass as their one thing. And it really defines a moment of, if you got one thing, just be real good at it and sell the heck out of it and own it. And I think that's something that I take away from this story that hopefully you'll share here with our audience momentarily.
Well, when you look at that too, Quentin, when you think about us,
mm-hmm.
you know, that's, you know, you don't have this and you don't have the resources and academics and you got, okay, great.
And when you say us, you mean UNF.
UNF, yeah. Like, okay, great. Like, we got all this stuff. Awesome. But guess what? There's a lot of dudes out there.
Right.
So what do we have? And what do we have that can, you know, what can we do from a system, schematic, who we put in the locker room. And that's why we've won 3 championships in the last 8 years, is because we've understood that at the end of the day, when talent's equal, character's going to separate you.
Every time.
And so I'm at Michigan, Tommy Amaker. As a matter of fact, when we played Michigan in 17, the visiting locker room is their old locker room, and the glass is still there in Michigan. So I'm recruiting at Clemson, and there's this frosted glass, and it's got the M. So one handles the one side of the M, and I said, man, this is nice. I'm like enthralled by it. Like they had other stuff that was pretty nice. Like this frosted glass is nice. And the handle, this is big time. And I put it in my brain.
And Coach, you're no interior decorator, so it's not like you have an eye for this. It's just catching you. Right.
But I'm like, this is nice.
Right.
And I put it in my brain. Of course, we get loco, Clemson, and then, we end up getting to Baylor. So we take a tour. A couple great stories. I don't even know if you know this. So we take a tour. So the first thing is we have a 7:30 breakfast. They hire a big-time firm, PR firm from Dallas that comes in because every CNN, ABC, CBS, NBC, any place you want to mention, they're at the press conference.
Mm-hmm.
I put some video up when Baylor won the championship, of Coach talking about winning a national championship. There's a great picture of me in the audience, all by myself, just staring at Coach. And then we kind of had fun with it, like, okay, let's capture this.
Right.
We drug test coaches. Yeah. How does this work? So as you go through this and you're saying to yourself, okay, we're walking through, we have his breakfast, a PR firm. You know who's sitting right next to me? Scott Strickland. You know who that is? The athletic director of Florida.
Sounds very familiar.
He's sitting right next to me. And he goes during the breakfast, hey, Driscoll, hey, just so you know, he's sports information director. Hey, just so you know, this is my last day. That's
Thanks.
exactly what I said. I said, what? He goes, yeah, that's my last day. I said, bruh. I said, where you going? He said, I'm going to Kentucky. And I'm like, no, okay. That's fair.
Yeah.
And I go, wow, congratulations. That's awesome. He goes, yeah, I'm really excited. He said, by the way, I know you're looking for a house. So my house is, he wants to sell me his house at breakfast. We just laughed about it. I was just with him last week. And we just laughed about it. So once we get done with breakfast and they take us on this tour. So they take us to the locker room.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm telling you what now, amongst other things, the one thing that stuck out the most was, and you can think back, every single person that's older can think back to their high school locker or lockers, if you had one for athletics and one out, is that combo, that left, right, left.
That master combo.
That left, right, left. And every single top of every locker had that hanging down. To their credit, it was green face, so it looked Baylorish. I guess it made them feel good. And we walk in, and like the first thing, I'm like, Coach, we got to get rid of these master lockers. Like, and he turns to me and he said, "Do whatever you want." He didn't care. He just wanted to get players. And then we get to the bathroom, and I'm like, "That's awkward."
Mm-hmm.
Like it's kind of like not whatever. And then it cost us about $3,000 to get that deal. And we did it. And then, Quentin, when you look at businesses and you go back to Bank of England, or you go back to this podcast 10 years from now,
mm-hmm.
or Baylor or University of North Florida 14 years ago, and you say, okay, what was it? What was that deal, right?
Right.
So we're at a big time booster function. It's our first one ever. And Coach is going to get 16 Herman Miller chairs, just like the Spurs. Because everything to Coach was about recruiting.
Right.
Oh, Spurs sit in that chair. Okay, that's pretty good. I don't know if you know this, but Waco's right in the middle of Dallas, San Antonio, and Houston. Like, that's pretty, NBA's big time. We use that a ton. So we're going to put Baylor on the back of these, $1,000 each. So we're there. Mickey is awesome. He's a dermatologist. I'll never forget. We had tacos that night. I'll never forget it. Coach is sitting in the back. They put Coach Coach's deal was everybody sit at a different table. You know, don't sit together.
Yeah, at this booster, spread it
Go
out, get to
spread
know
it
the
out.
audience.
So I'm, Chris Manning is still my guy, and Coach is with Lance Bird. We need a golf cart as well. That's about $8,000. So we come out of this deal with, I think, eight $1,000 checks and like a $6,000 golf cart deal, right?
Okay.
We're feeling great.
Yeah. Halfway there on the chairs and a golf cart.
During his conversation, Coach had his conversation. So that's on a Monday or a Tuesday.
Right.
It's Friday afternoon. Coach, hey, everybody, in here, hurry up. Yeah, Coach, what's up? We're thinking we just got this big recruit. He said, hey, remember the guy I sat with at the thing? Yeah. He wants to help us with the locker room. Great. He wants to come down and look and see what we got. Awesome. He's going to be here in 30 minutes. Huh? He's like, yeah, he's going to be here in 30 minutes. Coach, where is he? He's in Dallas. How's he going to get here? On his private plane.
Wow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're like,
oh, we got somebody. Okay.
So he comes down and he's wheeling and he's look at this. Look, can we take the weight room and we can blow this wall out? And Coach is like Lance, like, this is what we got.
Right.
Like this is it. This is what we got. He gives us all the money. We call it the bird nest. So we do it. I'm not going to, it's awesome what we do. So we do all this stuff, right? And I get to do it all, which is awesome because those guys are out recruiting.
Right.
I get to build a practice facility. When I say I get to do it, I'm like the
you're the point person.
Liaison. Yeah. So we do it. Well, we go to do the offices. That same guy. So you talk about dots on the map and relationships and being genuine, right? He can't stand Texas. Remember Ohio State played Texas opening weekend every year in the mid-2000s in football?
For some time.
We're going to alumni reunion at the Dr. Pepper Museum. Dr. Pepper was invented in Waco. And obviously I got to be there. It's a big deal. He calls me and I answer. You know what he says to me?
What's that?
How good are you? That's what he says. Hey, Lance, what's up? Hey, Driscoll, what's up? Hey, how good are you? Lance, like I'm getting ready to go on this alumni thing. Like, good at what? Like, what do you need? I need a 50, I can't remember back then. I need a 50-inch screen on my wall inside my suite at the football stadium because that little thing down there it's not going to be big enough for me to watch Texas get their butt kicked and yada 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 with some choice words. I said, Lance, look, let me get to this thing and let's talk about it. No, like you said, you're good, right? Hey, I'm gonna tell you what. I'm gonna buy all the TVs. I'm gonna buy all the software. I'm gonna buy all the digital. I'm gonna buy everything for the new suites. Okay, all right. So you want a 50-inch? You got it. Run to Best Buy. It was like $5,500. Put it on my credit card. Call up Lance Doyle. I need a favor. What do you need? I got to hang this TV. Can you meet me there about 11:30? Meets me there. I've never done this before in my life. And I'm in the Baylor suites of the football stadium. Now, the best news was they were changing the seats and they weren't done yet. So there was people everywhere working.
Right.
And I'm thinking to myself, I'm probably breaking a rule. I probably should ask somebody, but I'm figuring ask for forgiveness later.
Right.
So go in the suite, we hang it, we get it all done. I give him $100, for helping me. Lance comes the next day. He buys all the stuff and he literally brings me a check, for $5,500 and but anyways, those are the kind of things where Coach's vision going back to that dinner and then those people, and then it all started coming to fruition. And then next thing you know, we start going. And Epe Udo, really the guy that was the 2010 draft pick that flew us up when I was here at North Florida.
Right.
He really, you want to talk about another vision? We had a guy named Jim Hawkins, great booster, lived out by Coach. About 3 years prior, so let's say about 2006, the year before we went to the tournament, he has us over to his house on draft night. He's got this huge TV, and we bring George's in, which everybody loves, and he's like, the reason I'm doing this is one day we're going to be watching one of you guys, and you're like, okay, like we're stepping up the stairs.
Right.
Like we ain't just, look, I watched the draft and one day you're going to get drafted. No, let's get together and we're going to celebrate.
Perspective.
sure enough, 3 years later, I'm there, blessing from Epe. Coach Drew's there, and the guys are back at his house watching
him
Epe Udo get drafted. And so Thad Matta, when I got the job, was the head coach at Ohio State, 2 Final Fours. Was a great coach at Butler, where he's back to now. I know him a little bit from Valparaiso, saw him on the road for those short times. I just know him because, hey, Quentin, what's up? Hey, Driscoll, what's up?
Circle.
Cincinnati, Adidas camp. He's walking down the hill with Leanne Humphrey, who's from the NCAA. I know her well. If you can imagine how many times I spoke to the NCAA. Walking down the hill, I'm walking up, and he stops, and he goes, hey, I think I said, hey, coach. And he goes, hey, Driscoll. And he goes, hey, take my number down. Call me when recruiting's over. And he kept on walking.
Yeah.
So I call him. Hey, coach, what's up? Hey, I hear a lot of good things about the University of North Florida. I hear it's Man, so he must have had somebody who's trying to get the job.
Right.
Remind me a little bit of Butler, back in the day, yada, yada, yada. And then he gave me this stuff. And I have it on my desk still. Matter of fact, when we won our first championship, I put it on the trophy and sent him a picture. And one of the things he said was, you got to celebrate small victories. And I thought, Coach Drew was really good at that. Celebrating those small victories, whatever they looked like.
Right.
Just celebrate those.
But isn't that what we should be doing every day?
With our family,
our career, our friends, small victories.
100%.
And that's one thing I feel like social media doesn't allow us to do, because everything's so, maybe overdone, and that's a big challenge. So I love that celebrate small victories. I had someone tell me one time, before you leave, matter of fact, it was John Gordon. I'll never forget this. He said, before you leave and go home at night, I want you to create an ESPN top 10 plays in your head. Top 10 plays of things that happened, no matter how big, how small they are, but as long as they were a positive step forward. And when you go home, I want you to play your SportsCenter top 10 in your head. So when you walk out of your car and you meet your wife and you greet your children, how was your day? Boom, top 10. My top 10 list is playing all the way through. Not the negative stuff that happens. That's always at the forefront. But that top 10, those small victories. I love that concept. And celebrating those small victories kind of builds on that. I love it.
And that's really what we try to continue to do, whatever that looks like. Because I think almost all successful people would say the littlest details make the biggest difference.
Absolutely.
And when you understand that, and when you continue to be embraced, you talked about something earlier that maybe go to it right away in your opening, is like the microwave world compared to the oven. It's like two different places.
Right.
And everybody wants the microwave. Social media wants the microwave. And everybody wants the 1 minute and 1:30. Come on, it's going to be perfect. No. The oven's a cool place. And it could be 20 minutes in the oven. But sometimes it's 40 minutes. And sometimes you even have to flip it over. Like the oven is a great place. But I think what you said, we're so caught up in and that kind of goes into kind of where we were 9 years ago.
Yeah. So let's talk about that real quick, because we talk about,
but there's some other Baylor stories. Well, we could go, we go down a lot of, when they did win the championship, a lot of those things did come out and did come national.
Right.
And I think what we look for from a CEO, from a business perspective, I think that's what people don't understand. One of your guys, obviously Peyton Manning, said it best when he was in the coach's room of the football. And he said, here's me in my Tennessee shorts. Here's me in my Colts shorts. Here's me in my Bronco shorts. Here's me for 20 years doing the same drill.
Over and over again. I know exactly what drill you're talking about too.
That mundane, that grind. Everybody talks about it. I'm on the grind. NF's got a great song called The Grind. Like, everybody's on the grind. Look that one up, Charlie. Everybody's on the grind, right?
Right.
And but does people really understand what that is?
I think they understand what it is when they see it posted or when they post it, but I don't think they know what it is. Because on the grind is relentless. It's nonstop.
It's every day.
Every single day.
Even when you're not grinding. You're grinding.
Well, when you're doing that, your off is someone's best on. That's what
100%.
that's what that is.
100%.
You can call it what you want, but it's interesting, and what a success story you guys have to be a part of over there at Baylor. Going from the situation you were in at the depths of the NCAA sanctions, games taken away, scholarships taken away, 13 and a half years later, national title. And I know you were invited to that. I know you were invited to be a part of that. In that celebration, you took part of watching the program get to there. And what a great story. And what just an amazing, full circle of events that have happened. And
Coach
it
wouldn't
says a
say
lot.
this. Unfortunately, it was during COVID,
Yeah.
because I can't imagine how much even greater it would have been had it not. Because you remember now, they
Yeah.
were in a bubble.
In a bubble.
No,
Isolated. Pumping noise in there. They're pumping crowd noise into this bubble.
Quentin, go back to what you said before. When we're doing this, right? Who does it affect? Our families.
Absolutely.
So these people for 18 years that have seen it. Coach Tang had been there the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Coach Drew obviously has been there the whole time. And like, they saw this whole thing. And now you're like, you can't be a part of it.
Yeah.
Tough.
But it doesn't take away from the celebration.
No, not at all.
Or the
Not at all. But it's another piece that we talk about.
Yeah. Almost kind of, I don't like the word fitting, but poetic in a way. When you think about it.
I never thought about it
It's
that way.
almost borderline poetic that, another challenge in the form of your highest level of success that you have to overcome, which is kind of how you got there to begin with.
That's cool.
And it's almost poetic in a way when you think about that.
I'm going to share that with Coach,
because that's a different side of that coin to look at.
Yeah, I'm going to share that with Coach.
So let's dive into the next portion of this podcast here, and I know that you're fired up about this one because in the in the pregame, if you may, we saw how fired up you are. But let's talk about UNF. I mean, you arrive on the scene, first year D1, and the program itself went from a Division I program to multiple championships, multiple Coach of the Year in the ASUN. I mean, the accolades going on. You have an NCAA. Matter of fact, the only NCAA berth appearance against Dayton, Ohio. And what happens here is that you guys set the expectations and the bar so high, so quick. When you look at a D1 program kind of getting to that level so quick, I remember being in the stands, at the very top of that first section, sitting there, and I'm with a buddy of mine who graduated UNF, major Duke fan. He's seen every national championship, multiple times over, massive success. Literally, I watched tears coming down his eyes as a UNF grad, thinking he would never see this kind of moment. Stadiums rocking. I mean, we all jumped the floor. I got kids on my shoulders. You're hugging everybody. You're taking photos with everyone. I mean, it was a magical
6,155.
Yeah, a magical moment, man. There was a lot of jumping going on in that stadium that day. Players, everybody. And like everything in life, success, challenges. Celebrating those small victories. So let's talk a little bit about for our audience, and I know there's a lot of people that are UNF faithful just tuning into this portion, but let's talk a little bit about right now. What are the expectations of this program? What are your expectations, and then what are the outside expectations looking like right now, and what kind of pressure comes with that?
Going back to the beginning, and you probably can put it in two different segments. You probably can go first 4 and then the next 9.
Okay.
And Dallas Moore was at the forefront of that next 9. And when you look at the beginning of it, you talk about a lot of dots on the map. And one of them being Parker Smith is in the Hall of Fame. And he's 137 pounds at Tennessee State, historical black college. And he gets 31 against Austin Peay, who's now in our league. And his high school coach, who was a JV coach, when they used to come to Clemson's team camp, where I used to work when I was a Division III coach. You get my point?
Oh, yeah. Dots.
And he's in the Hall of Fame now. But, so Travis Wallace, who's now Kyle Lowry's personal trainer, he looks amazing, by the way, scored 1,300 points for us in 3 years. Because of the NCAA records, I returned a phone call to a guy who's pumping gas, T. Hicks, who I knew from Baylor. And what are you looking for? And well, they've got this kid coming to my junior college, but he really doesn't belong in a junior college. Really should be at a school like you. You should probably take him. Travis Wallace, one of the greatest players to ever play for us. You know, and those stories. So I tell the guys all the time, you're here for a purpose.
Right.
And it's way greater than us. And what that looks like, I don't know. But after officiating some weddings, I know a little bit more, you know, because there's just some things where a guy like Bo Beach from Ponte Vedra is going to be best men, you know, in each other's weddings 3 weeks apart with a guy from Georgia.
Right.
You know, from the outskirts at best.
Essentially nowhere near Ponte Vedra.
No, Asbury, like you talk about, it's the school where, if you remember Oprah at one point, they used to have segregated proms, and Oprah made paid for a prom for them to come together. That's where he's from.
Gotcha.
And so you're talking about two different sides of the track, and technically in Bebe's town, it was separated by a train track. Peanut farm on one side. And so, like, as you're building this and as you're growing this, it's all about those relationships, but having a sense of yourself, having a sense of where you're going, and understanding what that looks like. How do you fit within what's going to happen at the league? How do you fit within so all that stuff's going.
So this first 4 years, and then even portion of the next 9, you got the same AD minus the last, really, this year and last year.
So dots on a map.
Yeah.
I get my first Division I job at the University of Wyoming. Who's the athletic director? Lee Moon.
History.
13 months later, we leave to go to Clemson. Who is hotter? You know him. You imagine how mad he was at us? They gave Coach a 10-year contract. He brought me in his office, offered me a nice sum of money, offered Carrie a great cheerleading salary to stay with the new coach who was coming in. But at that point, I'm like, Coach, first of all, Laramie's Laramie, but we're going the ACC.
Right.
It's kind of hard, you know what I mean, to do something like that. So we go.
But a lot of people don't know that story. They don't know that you two had a history in Wyoming.
Yeah.
They don't recognize like dots on the map. Like you and Coach Moon, the AD at Wyoming, you basically reunite again down here at UNF.
So that'd have been 98 we left, and I get it in 09. So what is that, 11 years?
11 years.
So, but when I leave, I don't, like people always say, and we tell the guys all the time, like, don't burn bridges. Yeah. Like you're going to disappoint people your whole life. Parents, like you're going to disappoint people. But if you're honest and you are truthful, then it doesn't matter.
There's always room to come back. There's always room.
But also, too, you disappoint. And so Coach and I built a relationship. And we built our relationship back. And then there's a couple really, really neat connections to this university. A girl that I used to jog with, I tried to get her to date Coach Bruff. We used to jog the Bear Trail every single day. And she was dating Brian, who was the volleyball coach at the University of North Florida. And I'm like, University of North Florida, what's that? You know?
Right.
So I actually looked at it.
And this is why you're at Baylor.
Yeah. And I look at it and I'm like, that's a pretty nice place. That's pretty cool. And that was it. Like, dismissed it. But then when Coach Moon got the job in February, I was like, wow. Okay, University of North Florida. So fast forward the year before it, we go to the NCAA tournament at Baylor in 5 years, the greatest turnaround in college basketball history, bar none. But nobody's had a murder to the NCAA tournament in 5 years. That's ridiculous. So I'm 44, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm getting a job.
Yeah, I'm getting a D1 job somewhere.
I'm getting a job.
Right.
Wait till you hear where I didn't get a job. So the year before, I don't get the Robert Morris job. In Pittsburgh, my hometown, we had built the program. Didn't go to the NCAAs yet, but we had built the program.
Right.
I go into the last part of the interview with the president. I walk in his office. There's a ball behind his desk. The other guy that I was going against, his name was Mike Rice. He's famous for something he doesn't want to be famous for. He's not in coaching anymore because he did some things he shouldn't have done. But he was also the assistant at St. Joseph's when they went to the Final Four. And he was at Pitt at the time. And I walk in and the president has a St. Joe's ball.
Yeah.
And
you knew then.
One of the first guys to text us when we won our championship.
Here in North Florida?
Yes.
That's a solid.
Well, because, you treat people, just like I said, you're going to disappoint people.
Sure.
But it doesn't mean it. So I said to him, listen, it's great to meet you. I'm really excited about your university, but based on that ball, I ain't got no chance at this job. So I don't want to take your time.
Right.
There's no sense in wasting down. And he was great. He was great. So when you have all these things going on, the next year we go the NIT championship. So that year, Robert Morris is in the same league as St. Francis. So now we go to the NCAA tournament. We go to the NCAA tournament. I'm getting a job.
Yeah. You're with
St.
Baylor,
Francis
NCAA.
opens.
Yep.
The AD at Robert Morris is helping me. St. Francis, Pennsylvania, just so you know, is next to a prison. So, there's no way I'm not getting this job. Now, I will tell you my theory of why I didn't get the job. The AD son was on staff.
Mm-hmm.
He is now the head coach at St. Francis. I wasn't hiring him. No disrespect to him.
Sure.
I was just bringing in my own guys and doing my own thing.
Right.
They ended up hiring some Division III guy from down the street who lasted 2 or 3 years, and then his son got the job. Yeah, which is whatever. So I go home and I tell Carrie, like, I didn't get the job.
And by the way, being next to a prison isn't a compliment. It's like not many people want that job. Therefore,
you could have good pickup, good scrimmages, maybe. So I say to Carrie, like, I didn't get the job. And she's like, first thing she said to me, God's not ready for you to be a head coach. And I was hot. I'm like, do you realize what we've done here? Do you know how many hours we put in? Do you know how much sacrifice I get?
Right.
I go right down the list, and she just, and I got done. Are you done? I'm like, yeah, I'm done. God's got something better for you. Okay. And sure enough, the following year, Coach Moon gets a job. Bada bing, bada boom.
You know, I'm always curious. Were you the first call for Coach Moon?
Larry Shyatt. So Larry's the guy that was at Wyoming. He's the guy that left and went to Clemson. And he was at Florida, 2 national championships with Billy, 06, 07. Billy hired him as his defensive guy.
Right.
And so that was, so Shy comes and sees the place. And then Shy doesn't take it. And he calls me and says, you don't need to see it. You don't need to look at it. Just take the job.
That's solid.
So great.
But the reason I asked that is completely not out of disrespect, because I want to know Coach Moon's mindset and how he felt about that whole situation from Wyoming. Like, are you the first call? But
Coach is an athletic director,
right?
And he wants to put the right people. And he knew Shy was a great human being.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think Quentin, in the big picture, he knew he's got to take the job at Clemson,
right?
Like it's an ACC job, and that whole story is a great story. He's got to take the job.
Right.
So I think he got over that part. And so he's like, I can hit a home run here. I can hire that 2-time national champion and he's old.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, like that's a home run.
Right.
That's a grand slam. They said I was a home run on the ESPN thing, but me, Calipari, Tony Bennett, Sean Miller.
Not bad company to keep.
Yeah, Sean.
Excluding.
And one other guy, but he got fired. But anyways, so with Coach Moon, that relationship and kind of him being here, and next thing you know, we walk into this, and to fast forward through it, our 4th year, we were really good. We were picked high in the league.
This is 2013.
This is 2012, 13. Parker's really good. Jerron's really good. Andy's really, like, we're feeling ourselves. Like, we're there.
Yeah.
Now, don't forget, Belmont, Mercer, East Tennessee State.
All in the league.
Yeah. Florida Gulf Coast wasn't them yet.
Right.
But they did that year. So anyways, and then Jerron situation happened after Thanksgiving. His father passed, and he quit the team. And it really, kind of messed things up from a sense of kind of where we were and all that stuff. And so the incoming class. So here's the part that a lot of people know or don't know. I don't even know if you know this. So we're going to the tournament, and Coach Moon, every Monday after the tournament was the golf.
And when you say the tournament, you mean the ASUN tournament?
Correct.
Yep.
The golf tournament was that Monday. He comes in my office before we leave and says, hey, Drisk, we're having your evaluation on Monday. Usually the evaluation was May or June. So I'm like, okay, I'm getting fired.
Right.
I told Phil Pierce, by the way, Keller Williams, God rest his soul, 3 things are going to happen. I'm going to get a contract extension, I'm getting fired, or I'm going to get I'm going to raise myself in the profession and get a higher level job.
Okay.
So, like,
one of the two.
when you're trying to sell me this house, keep that in the back of your brain. So he tells me I'm going to have this meeting. I'm like, okay, we're getting fired. We're going to the tournament. This is what's in my brain.
Yeah. It's a weird thought, by the way. You're going to the tournament thinking
I
you're
got
getting fired.
staff. I got
Right.
families. I got I get an email from the human resource department that ends up being completely accidental. But I called Nick Morrow, our AD.
Right.
I'm like,
Your current AD at the time, the assistant AD.
correct.
Yeah.
I'm like, and business guy, he's the guy. Like,
Yeah.
I got this email. Like, what's going on? Like, if y'all fire me, like this ain't the way to do it.
Right.
Chris, what are you talking about? Nick was like, what are you talking about? I get this email. It says I got to report that. Like, I don't even remember what it was. And Nick's like, listen, Driss, let me check into that. But I'm not sure exactly. So he checks. It was a complete accident that I got this. But nonetheless, I'm thinking these stars are starting to line up.
Yeah. It's got you feeling some sort of way.
So we go
You're
in the
like,
meeting,
all right.
and he says, either 10-8 next year in the league, or I'm firing you. And I said, all right. I said, Coach, listen, I understand. Like, I'm not unintelligent. I said, however, and I explained, Jerome, blah, blah. I said, but if that's like, and I got 7 new guys coming in. 7 new dudes coming in.
10-8. 7
10-8. Mercer, Florida Gulf Coast, just went to the Sweet 16, right? So I'm depressed. I'm having a hard time getting out of bed. I'm not having suicidal thoughts, anything like that, but I'm depressed.
And where's Carrie in all this? Where's her mind?
So she's trying to be the great wife, the supporting mother of maybe whatever the children are hearing and whatever's going on in that area. And also, too, she's scared.
Sure.
Because she knows I have my brother committed suicide in 87. And she knows, 86. She knows I have some stuff, but I'm not at that stage, but I'm depressed.
Right.
Like, we're humans. Like, where did I go to the Final Four, and I have, and this guy gives me, Coach Slocum, one of my mentors, gives me unbelievable advice. This is how you need to handle this. Like, get away from that conversation every time it becomes a conversation this next year, or else you're just going to whatever.
Right.
And I did a really good job with that. So fast forward to August. So that's March, April, May, June, July, 5 months. Coach comes back from vacation, calls me in the office, and he says, hey, listen, Driscoll, I'm not sure. Now, understand, he's told everybody.
He's told everybody he's going 10-8 or he's not. He's told boosters, everybody.
President,
everybody.
And
anybody, Coach, you go have lunch. He's going to tell you this. It doesn't have to be the right setting. He's just going to tell you.
You already knew.
Yeah.
So he says, I shouldn't have done that. Like, it's not fair. And I said, Coach, when you did it, I'm thinking one guy gets hurt. Like, of course it's like, but I get it. 10-8. Right. Well, let's not worry about Coach. 10-8. It's been 10-8 for 5 months. It's going to be 10-8.
Right.
Or better. It's how good God is. So this is the year Mercer beat Duke in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, first round. Shocker.
They had just beaten Florida Gulf Coast at Florida Gulf Coast to go to the tournament. Florida Gulf Coast went to the Sweet 16. They had all them dudes back. So they were like juniors. So we're 8-8. Now, Dallas Moore, we knew he was good. We didn't know he was that good. Right? So Bo Beach and Bebe, and then we don't get Chris without Dallas.
Right.
And that's all these stories are great stories, how we even got them. Anyways, we're 8-8. We got at Mercer, at Kennesaw State. Mercer has got 7 seniors that are like the dudes that like have taken them to this mountain.
Yeah.
Right. And it's the Thursday before the Saturday senior night. So Thursday night is like awards night. It's packed. Coach comes in the office. He goes, hey, I'm not going to be able to make this trip.
Coach Moon, I'm not going to make it.
I said, okay. I said, no big deal.
Yeah.
He says, yeah, man, if we can just get a split. I said, whoa, split? Coach, we're going 10-8. Like I told you, we're going 10-8. We're going 10-8. Just let's just, hey, Coach, I tell you what, I'll call you Thursday night. So we leave. We beat Mercer in overtime. And that was one of my most exciting calls, obviously. Then, of course, we end up beating Kennesaw State on Saturday, and we end up going 10-8.
Yeah.
And I knew at that point, I knew that God had such a hand on everything that was going on. I just had to continue to be faithful, and He'll be responsible. Just continue to be faithful, and He'll be responsible.
What kind of feeling is that when your back's against the wall?
It's
You've been given an ultimatum,
awful.
and then you prevail.
Oh well, it was awesome, but it was what you said.
Mm-hmm.
Well, 10-8 with this group, they're all young. Well, why can't you win a championship? Well, why don't we win a championship?
Yeah,
well, why can't we get this guy? Why is this guy transferring? Why is he going there? Why isn't he coming here? Why can't we? Well, pump your brakes, bro. Like, pump your brakes.
Right.
And then the following year, Gulf Coast has got all them dudes back, and they're seniors.
Yeah.
And they are mad. And if you said to me, what's the turning point of the championship season? There's a lot of great stories. Alabama calling timeout and talking about the championship. Bebe talking about reset after we lost 5 in a row.
Mm-hmm.
He got hurt. There's a whole bunch of great stories. But that game at home against Florida Gulf Coast.
That place was rocking.
We're down. You can look this up. We're down, I believe, 14. Played a lot of man that year. We had gotten away from the zone and played a lot more man. We're down 14. Chris Davenport gets 2 technicals and gets thrown out of the game. One of the greatest players ever played for us.
A great guy, by the way.
So we're standing, yeah, he's a great heart. So we're standing there talking, and I'm like, hey, we're going zone.
Mm-hmm.
We're just going to have to go zone and just figure it out. We flip it. We win by 14. Dallas has like 25-10 or something. And I'll never forget Brett Comer, who's now coaching at Stetson, was like the guy, the poster child, as he took him, he said, basically, there's a new sheriff in town.
Right. Oh, it definitely was.
And like, we just, just took off.
Well, you knew something was special when, there's 3-point arc, and then there's where Dallas used to shoot it from.
And then he'd go by and finishing at the rim.
Correct. And I mean, it was just, you just sitting there watching that. You're like, wow, you got someone special that's really turned into an amazing talent. Your turning point at that season, which led to so many great runs after that. I often wondered, you guys get a hand that's dealt to you that's a little different than the rest of the league, to paint a perspective for our audience. When you look at some of the things you guys have to do, some of the games that you have to play, the pay-to-play games, and you look at some of those, I mean, let's call it what it is. Those are very lopsided games. You're going in and you're playing Power 5 schools because of a budgetary constraint. You need that pay-to-play, whereas some of these teams, such as Liberty, never have to do that.
They pay.
So let's take a look at this. So here's one that's always great. I'll never forget, I got a brother-in-law, went to Purdue. And I look up at that Purdue score after you guys, before ESPN3, I look up at this Purdue score, and you guys not only have won, but you've done very well against Purdue. And then the following year against Illinois, you guys absolutely shocked Illinois. And then it got to a point where certain teams won't play you.
Correct.
It's got to, I mean, people wonder, like, I have a buddy that's like, well, why don't they play this? I'm like, dude, people don't want to play them on the threat of losing these. You're paying someone to possibly lose. I mean, that's a gamble, but yet you guys have to do it. And the other thing is this, when you play those games, the physical toll it takes on your team, you're not playing an ASUN team. You're playing, physical, then mental, right? But you're playing guys that, today would be getting NIL deals to come play there. Hundreds of thousands of dollars to come play there. And they are clearly being recruited at a high level to come do that. And then you guys who are very talented have to go play a group like that. And, let's say you lose by 10, but you still lost, right? Physical toll, mental toll.
And I'm still coaching them the same way.
Still coaching them the same way. And the reality is, if you ever watch those games, I honestly believe many a times that's a 2 to 3 possession game that gets out of control. Like, those games could be there, and that's that mental hardness. And that's that thing that Dallas and Bo had. They had that instinct They knew how to take over a game no matter who they were playing. And I think we're getting closer to getting that group back together as far as a team right now that I see. We're not there yet, but we're getting closer.
Northwestern was the turning point that year. We lost, shouldn't have. Guy hit a big time shot,
And the team knew it,
and the guys were crying in the locker room.
but they knew they should have won that game.
And I'm looking around, and I'm like, in my heart, I'm like this is good.
Mm-hmm.
This is good. And then we ended up going to beat Purdue. The thing about beating Purdue was we had played them earlier, 2010, and we're going to shoot around on a Friday night, and I get a phone call. It's about 5:30, and it's now the current head coach at my old school, LaRoche, kid I recruited in there that had a lot of trouble that nobody wanted. That we knew our culture could make him right.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I turned the phone to Coach Ken, and I'm like, I ain't answering this.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I ain't answering this. Calls me back. He's, Coach, answer the phone. My best friend, my best man, my wedding was my assistant, took over for me. He died on the floor at LaRoche at practice. And to go fast forward to 2014 and to go back there, and Coach Painter knew him because Coach Painter was a Division III assistant coach at Washington and Jefferson when I was a Division III head coach at LaRoche College.
Wow.
He's the head coach at Purdue. So he knew him really well too. And then to go back and then to get that win, there was a lot. There was a lot there. There was a lot there.
Yeah.
But it showed the guys resilient. We were down 7 and flipped it up 7 in the last media. So much that when we went to Iowa that year, we're coming out of the timeout down 7, 3:52 on the clock. Jalen turns around after taking 3 steps on the court. He goes, Coach, we got this. It's just like Purdue. And he turned around and kept running. And I'm thinking to myself, man, these guys believe.
Yeah.
Like they believe.
Well, turning points in a program, and you got them bought in. What is it going to take? Let me ask this. What needs to happen this year to have that kind of moment?
Well, you go back to all the guarantee games.
Okay.
And like you said, whatever, haves and have-nots, what we talked about earlier.
Right.
Nick's been very open about it. We're, our teams are in the bottom 25% of, whatever.
Budgetary constraints.
Well, we're not paying for players, so whatever. However, there are some advantages to, whatever Liberty does or doesn't do or buy games on.
Right.
And then where you are 0-6, 0-7, 0-8, if you get one, now you get one. Everybody thinks you should get one all the time, or So we're playing 2, 3, and 4 this year. Gonzaga and Houston and Kentucky.
Yeah, I don't think people recognize that. You're playing Gonzaga.
Yeah.
Houston.
Yeah.
Kentucky.
Yeah, 2, 3, 4.
Wait, by the way, if you were to look at brackets last year, each one of them had a 20% greater chance to win the entire NCAA tournament. Like we're talking about teams.
Right now, they're the 3 number 1 seeds in Joe Lombardi. The only one we didn't get was Carolina. So if we'd have got them, it would have been perfect.
Right.
But when you play those games, because we coach them the same.
Right.
And they wear on the guys.
Sure.
And so, you do some math and you go back and you say, what if we didn't? But we're like 180 and 118. If you just go by winning percentage against mid-majors.
So I think what you're saying is if you take out the pay for play games,
there's 60 of them,
and you say, listen, take those out of the record.
Last 9 years, we are 180 and 118.
180 and 118.
Just based on winning percentage against mid-majors. It's about 59%.
Yeah.
And I'm not even saying we're going to win 3 out of 4.
Right. But I mean, think about that. That's a heck of a compliment too. And it puts things in perspective when you take a look at the fact that, okay, we removed those bigger Power 5 programs.
We're 20 wins a season. We're averaging 20 wins a year. So that's the way the guys have to understand it.
Yeah.
And so that's what we do. And I'm going to tell you something, Quentin. I've never said this publicly, and I'm going to say this to you. You can do whatever with it, whatever you want. But we're really, really, our staff is a professional of taking the non-conference and allowing us day 1 of the regular season to understand the importance of what that really looks like, what that really meant. But what we talked about earlier, reality.
Right.
That's reality.
Right.
Which game keeps you in and which game keeps you out.
Correct.
Because the first 4 seeds are getting home games, and the top 2 are getting more, and the number 1's getting them all. And if things would have been different in 2020, we'd have been number 1 seed again.
Right. We talked about that a little bit.
But my point is, like, we're really special at doing that. And we use a lot of visuals and some comparisons and some where were they at? Like just even last year. Like the 2017, 2018 team was the team that won the 1920 championship. And they went through a gauntlet. Michigan State Friday night was supposed to be in the Final Four. Michigan on Saturday with 8 minutes to go, it's tied. They go to the Final Four. Get on a plane, play VCU on Monday, then went to the NCAA tournament, pressure the whole way. Yvonne misses a 3 with 2 minutes to go to tie the game. Fly back home on Tuesday, take a day off. Oh, yeah, let's go play the Gators and lose by 40. And when you're done, let's get on a bus and let's end up in Spartanburg at 7 in the morning to play in a tournament on Saturday against Mount St. Mary's, who's always really good. We miss a 3 at the buzzer. And then we lose on Sunday to a team that didn't have to play the night before called Wofford, who everybody knows about. That guy's at Virginia Tech now. They beat North Carolina that year, and we miss a buzzer to tie it. That's the beginning of our season.
Right.
And so, like, and we told the guys, these things, these adversities, hurdles, challenges, whatever you want to see, they're going to come to full fruition. You're going to see it. And this is the year for us to reap what we sow. And that's when you look at it, like Jarius, so Jose and Carter get hurt. Jarius, if you look at the last half of the season, we're 7-3 the last 10, 6-2 in the second half, one of the best, if not the best second half teams without the 2 leading scorers playing. Jarius, if you'd have just taken that, he'd have been first team all league. So now you got Carter, who's been first team all league, Jose, who's been all league. Now you got Jarius. Jonathan was obviously all freshman. Jaden's coming into his own. You go right down the list of people. Like, this team is primed and ready.
You know what else something this team is going to have that previous teams haven't had? They're going to have some phenomenal facilities this year. I mean, that new court that you guys are getting, it's going to be the talk of the town. The improvements from the fan experience inside that stadium is going to be the talk of the
100%.
town. And it's going to be a new stadium when they walk in there and they look up and they see the things that they see. They feel that new speakers. I mean, that place is going to be rocking this year. And the fact that you now have, you have a president that's embracing the student experience outside the stadium, you're going to be able to get that loud crowd that
that tailgating's back.
That tailgating's
15,
back, Coach.
16,
yeah, you're going to get that loud student experience back in there. And what type of new energy does that pump back in to the players?
A ton. Just the physical building of itself, all the dust, all the dirt, all the where's it at, why is it going, where's the steel, we need the cement, where's the buckets, oh, we got to use the upstairs, oh, we got to go to the field house, oh, we got to go to FSCJ. All that stuff, all we keep presenting to them is that vision. Like, this is what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
Like, just keep stepping up those stairs. At the top of the stairs, like, this is the deal. And like, so we got there in 2009, we take the guys up to the top gym and we put a ladder up and we play One Shining Moment and we say, here's how you cut down the nets. Right? Because if you view it, you can do it, right? If you see it, you can be it, believe it, right? You can achieve it. So when you go through all that stuff, when you're doing it, and then all of a sudden, the night before the championships, before we put 6,155 people in there, your wife, and you stand at the mid-court, and I have goosebumps, and you look around and you just start crying and you say, like, this is what we've done. Like, we've had this vision, and our program has done this for this university. And then next thing you know, you get $1 million scoreboard, you get the courtside seats, and everything is starting to go and go and go and go and go. And now this is the next phase. It's got to continue to go, and this is the next one. You get that court, you get that obviously the corporation. We get another corporation that does the hospitality. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that or not.
Sure, go for
okay,
it.
So Bank of England Hospitality Suite. Now you put people up there. My son's 24 years old, and he just bought 2 tickets. I mean, but he understands because he's been at the games. He understands there's more coming to the games is an experience. Coming to the games is something you want to do,
right?
Not that you have to do.
Right.
It's something where you get to be with people, you get to be around people, you get to network maybe, or you get to just whatever it is for you. It's going to be incredible, and it's a new floor because we had no choice because the nails were coming up. like we had to do it. Like we had to do it.
And
And
it
then
just happened. It just happened that.
but the vision, though, the
Yeah.
vision and saying, okay, let's pop this out. Let's build this out. Let's do this. We're going to lose some students, but we're going to add this and we're going to have this. And then next thing you know, now what does that lead to? Now the lobby gets changed in the front. Next thing you know, the locker rooms come, and then all
Nutrition
the
bar, everything.
It all starts coming down the road.
So I do wonder, what is that, from an opposing side? I'm sure you guys will get a few shots in there, but that whole new setup where that stadium seating is going to be coming down and that section's removed when you're doing free throws in front of that, how's that going to mess with the players? And what can the home crowd do to help mess with the opposing team?
I think it's a double-edged sword because in the first half they're coming that way, and that's sight line's going to be so different, and that's going to be. It's going to have its own, I believe. Now, I don't know for a fact because I'm not an acoustic guy, but I believe acoustically, I think it's going to bounce back differently. And then in the second half, they're going into all the students.
Yeah.
And because of tailgating, but doing it the right way, and because of what we're going back to, now you got those people
cranked
in
up
the
for the
second half.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be almost like a catch-22. It's going to be two different deals.
Yeah, it's going to be, I kind of equate it to like Vanderbilt's home court. If you go to Vanderbilt, the teams don't sit on the sidelines. They sit on the baseline. It's a very unique setting down there. It's very difficult for opposing teams when they play.
Coaching on it is tough too, because you can actually coach all the way up to the sideline and on the baseline. Yeah, it's
dynamic is weird. It's like
weird.
A 90-degree angle.
Yeah.
So what's the one more goal that you want to accomplish this year with your team? What's your one more goal that you want this year with them? If you had to say, Q, I'm sitting here and I've already talked to the team. This is the expectation, but this is the goal. And I know a championship's the goal. I get that. But what's the goal that you want this year? What's the one more goal that you want under your belt?
The 1-2 has to be greater than the have to.
Okay.
That is what separated us, whoever us is.
Right.
People that have gone to whatever it is they think is success. And it's not rooms in your house or cars in your driveway or zeros on that's not success. It's being the difference in people's lives and doing that every single day. But the 1-2 to do that has got to be greater than the have to. Because if it's a have to, you're going to start making excuses. When you start making excuses, the scale doesn't tip right. It's got to tip to the 1-2. No, I want to. I get to.
Right.
Not I have to. Well, I have to shoot. I have to lift. I have to sleep right. I got to eat right. No, I want to. Because when I want to, that's when those things come to fruition.
And what, one thing I can say about being in the room with you, and my producer Charlie said this the first time I introduced the two of you. He goes, when it comes to Coach Driscoll, there could be 100 people in that room. You're the only person in the room when he's talking to you. It's just locked in. It's right here. And your passion and your authenticity, authentic. Oh, it is authentication. Let's put it that way. You're a very authentic person.
I try to be genuine.
We'll figure that term out here in a minute. But basically, it's very genuine, very real. It's not counterfeit. And I think that your players, fans, supporters of the program, we feel that. And I think that genuality bleeds into your team. And I think when you hurt, they hurt. And when they hurt, you hurt. And I think that reveals itself during times that are challenging and also during times that are very, very successful. You guys all share and celebrate in that. I look forward to this upcoming season.
That's a tough line.
I look forward to this upcoming season.
That's a tough line, though.
I bet.
I mean, I just had this conversation. For me, it's a tough line because we know why we're doing it. And we know what the greater picture is. Right. We know what's reality down the road.
Right.
And that 18-year-old kid right now, one particular guy I'm thinking about, like he just doesn't understand it. But like Dallas, like I was probably twice as hard on Dallas than I am on this kid. And not for any other reason, just for whatever reason. But like when they know that you truly love them, that's when they truly understand that it's it's much, much more than the game. And that's when you win championships because they're all in.
Right.
And when they come, they're coming at you.
One of the I reached out to a couple of people before we did this podcast, and it was interesting. one of the questions that this person was dying to ask was, what's one or two things UNF basketball can do to be consistently at the top of the ASUN program? Because that's our measurement, is the ASUN right now. So what's one or two things that your program can do to consistently stay at the top?
So let's phrase it this way.
Okay.
What have we done so well to be consistently at the top?
Love it.
Because I don't know what that looks like, what that means. So 9 straight years we finished 4th or higher, tied 4th or higher. And we've won 3 championships. Us and Liberty, the only 2 teams in the last 8 years have won 3 championships. And so we'll be picked somewhere. I don't know. Some people may pick us first. Some people may pick us
This
second,
year.
third, fourth. Yeah. Somewhere in there, because obviously we have a lot of talent back. And the way we ended with the talent, 2 of our best scorers that weren't around. And so because of that, you kind of where you are. I think the 2 things we have to consistently do is, number one is we've got to make sure that we stay true to who we are. I think sometimes when people look at other things, right? When people go outside their marriages, when people do certain things, they do them for whatever reason. And they think, well, that's more sexy, or that's better, or why can't I have one of those, or I need one of the. No, this is who we are. This is who we have. This is why we have who we have. Like sometimes you just don't get guys because you can't take guys. So I'll give you a good example. Darius McGee at Liberty, right? You can't take Darius McGee. We didn't recruit him. You can't take Darius McGee and have Yvonne at the same time and then have Jay. Like there's only so many players you can have.
Right.
And it's all timing and it's all that stuff. JT Escobar, one of the greatest players to ever play for us, came down between us and Liberty. And he chose us. Like, so nobody even talks about how awesome that is.
Right.
Because it's not, we didn't beat Florida. We didn't beat Florida State. or why can't we get one of those transfers from Florida or Florida State? Or
right.
Like, there might be a reason why they're transferring. There might be stuff that you don't know. So I think we got to, number one is we got to stay true to who we are. And when you do that, we tell this to our guys all the time. When you look in the mirror, that's the one dude you ain't ever lying to.
Never.
You can, and you can try. But the bad news is, that dude knows.
They know.
So that would be it. And then number 2, I would say for us, in order to continue to stay where we're staying and to be the team we're continuing to be, is we've got to continue to load ourselves up with guys that can do multiple things. Bo Beach, Bebe Daniels, Chris Davenport,
right?
Garrett Sams, Carter Hendricksons, Noah Horkler when he was here, Wajid Aminu's, guys that can do so many different things that they're not a one-hit
They're not
wonder.
Specialized.
But JT Escobar's great.
Right.
Let's get that guy. Oscar Berry, you'll see is special from out there. Trent Mackey, special. Aaron Bodiger, special. Ryan Burkhart was special. One was on the championship team in 2020. Right. So the specialist is great, but we don't need a team of those. We need them to be there so that when that guy that's Jose and Jarius and those guys are playing downhill, they got dudes they can spray it to.
Yeah, that makes
because when you spray
sense.
and play, it's hard to guard.
Yeah, especially in your offense.
Hard to guard. Very hard to guard.
So, Coach, as we kind of wrap up here, I'll ask you a question, non-season related. Here's the layup for you. What's your one more Dunkin' order?
Extra large hot coffee, 3 cream, 6 Splenda.
Do you still get the 1 donut?
So they took that away.
They took it away.
AARP took that away.
Really?
And it really crushed me.
So yeah, that was the 1 donut, the one you would find the person to hand it to. Always, right?
Always. One guy said, "Nah, I don't do donuts." I said, "Okay." I said, "It's blueberry." He goes, "This is like I'm not gonna like this is real."
And for our audience, those that don't know, Coach would get the 1 donut and every day find someone different to hand it to, just to brighten their day.
Start conversation. And he says, he goes, "I don't need that." I said, "Oh, okay." I said, it was blueberry anyways. He said to me, "I do like fruit." And he took it.
He took it.
Yeah. But the fact that there was fruit in it, he thought, you know what? I'll be okay.
Yeah. I tell you what, the fact that you're not sponsored by Dunkin' Donuts is unbelievable. So not by lack of effort, maybe. We'll see. Someday. That's right. So, Coach, I said at the beginning of the podcast, I'll end it with this: one of 363 Division I coaches. The fact that you would even take time to come on here today speaks to how much you are a genuine person, speaks to your community give back. And I say that because I think a lot of people lose sight that you're the type of person you could call on and you'll be there. You'll find a way for someone in this community. I will be there. I will show up. And if I can't be there, tell me when I can be back next. I've seen you do countless speeches from recreational baseball teams, for businesses, for individuals, and never charge a dime. One of 363 D1 coaches. There's not many people I can say that would do that. And from the bottom of my heart, and our producer and all the people that are part of the UNF program, I want to thank you for that. Thank you for who you are. And more importantly, just thanks for being a good friend.
In '86, when my brother took his life, I really, really took a step back and started at that point, like, what did I miss?
Mm-hmm.
What did I miss? What did I miss? What did I miss? And so if I could be the difference, just one person every single day, who knows what that ripple effect looks like.
Yeah. Well,
So I appreciate that. Thank you. I'm honored.
you definitely walk it as you talk it, man. You definitely you do it, and I can't thank you enough. Coach, thanks for being here. Thanks for being on the One More podcast. And if you like what you hear, folks, please subscribe. There's more to come. And thanks again, Coach.
Thanks, Quinn.
All right, talk to you soon.
Got one more shot, I'm gonna make